They called the cops on us for visiting our own house. Yeah, burgers sizzling on the grill, our kid playing with sidewalk chalk, flowers blooming in the yard, and suddenly we're public enemies in our own neighborhood. Let me back up a second. My name's Noah, and about 4 months ago, my wife Mia and I moved back to Oak Haven, a quiet, picture-perfect suburb that looks like it was pulled straight out of a Hallmark movie. The house we moved into? It belonged to my late grandmother. She left it to me, no strings attached. Big yard, wraparound porch, birds chirping in the morning. You get the idea. Mia owns a little flower shop in town, and the first thing she did when we moved in was turn the front garden into something straight out of a magazine. Lavender, daisies, roses. She even hand-carved this cute wooden sign that said, "Welcome to our little patch of peace," which would have been lovely if our HOA president hadn't decided that peace was illegal. Her name was Connie Simmons. Imagine a retired DMV supervisor who discovered power too late in life and clings to it like it's oxygen. Sharp bob haircut, clipboard welded to her hand, always in beige, like she'd been designed to make people uncomfortable. She showed up 3 days after we moved in. No knock, no greeting, just strutted up the driveway in stilettos, measuring tape in one hand and a look on her face like we'd just planted cocaine in the begonias. She walked our perimeter like a prison guard, scanning every inch with a laser level. Then she marched into the garden and yanked the welcome sign right out of the ground. "Unauthorized signage," she barked, like we were tagging gang turf. And it didn't stop there. Apparently our fence was 1.6 inches too tall. My barbecue grill, unregistered equipment, my dad's car parked in our own driveway, didn't have a visitor sticker. Then came the violation notice, bright yellow, slapped right on the front door like we were Cockroach Central. 72 hours to comply or face legal consequences. And the way she smiled when she put it up, like she'd just cured cancer. I tried to be civil. I really did. I asked if we could talk it through, maybe work something out. She pointed that damn laser pointer at me like I was radioactive and said, "You think the rules don't apply to you?" And that's when I knew. We weren't just dealing with a stickler. We were dealing with a tyrant in khakis. Now here's where it gets wild. That weekend, she held an emergency HOA meeting, just about us. PowerPoint presentation and all. Had a slideshow filled with grainy photos of our garden, edited with red arrows and fake charts showing property value decline. I half expected a dramatic soundtrack to kick in. Mia's lavender bushes were being treated like a national security threat. But then, this is important, someone spoke up. Mrs. Eleanor Grant, our neighbor from across the street, stood up and said, "This isn't the first time." Turns out Connie had run 4 families out before us. Same playbook. Manufactured violations, harassment, escalating fines. And she did it all quietly, methodically, like some HOA war criminal. Then, as if on cue, Connie announced that any visitor to our house, yes, including my dad, had to register 48 hours in advance and could only stay 2 hours, max. You know how absurd that is? Well, my dad sure did. Because he showed up the next morning and was stopped by a security guard she hired. Now here's what she didn't know. My dad is Judge Samuel Keegan, as in 25 years on the bench, as in the man who trains half the lawyers in this county, as in you do not mess with him. And Connie tried to ban him from visiting his son. He didn't even raise his voice, just said, "Thank you for your time," turned around, and drove straight to the courthouse. That's when things turned. See, what Connie didn't realize is that my dad had already started gathering evidence. Mrs. Grant? She'd been collecting emails and rule changes Connie pushed through without community votes. Turns out she'd rewritten the bylaws, installed cameras, and even planted fake violations in people's yards. Literal setups. We had her on fraud, harassment, civil rights violations, the works. But we didn't go to the cops. Oh no. We went to her game. The next HOA meeting, we recorded it. And my dad showed up, wearing his judicial robes. He walked into that community center like a lion entering a flock of sheep. Connie froze, mid-sentence, mouth open like she'd swallowed a stapler. Dad stepped up to the podium, opened his briefcase, and started reading from the actual law. Not the fantasy rules she made up, but real, binding, state-verified statutes. "You've been enforcing non-existent regulations," he said, calm as ever, "and using them to intimidate families out of their homes. This ends today." One guy whispered, "She fined me $500 for having wind chimes." Another woman said, "She told me my dog's bark broke a decibel ordinance. What even is that?" And then, silence. That heavy, thick silence where everyone in the room knows they've been conned. Dad looked at her, picked up the little nameplate that said HOA President, and handed it to me. There will be new leadership here. Connie? She didn't even argue. Within 48 hours, a for sale sign went up on her lawn. And you know what? No one waved goodbye. The best part? Her usual 2-minute drive out of the neighborhood now takes 15. She has to loop around the entire block to avoid violating a court order barring her from coming within 300 feet of any HOA meeting or member residence. The look on her face when she passed by? Oh man. Pure bitterness, like she'd been forced to drink her own medicine. And that garden Mia built? Still there. Still blooming. We even added a little rose bush for Mrs. Grant in honor of everyone who stood up. Kids run in our yard now, free. Eleanor plays her music again. One neighbor planted a memorial tree for his late wife. Nobody's scared anymore. A few weeks later, we had the first real block party in years. No permits, no speeches, just hot dogs, music, kids laughing, people being human. As I stood there flipping burgers, the same ones Connie once claimed were a code violation, I looked around and realized something. Sometimes the people who scream the loudest about rules are the ones who understand community the least. And sometimes it takes someone with real authority, not fake power trips and laser pointers, but quiet, measured justice to set things right. Oh, and remember that little welcome sign Connie ripped out? It's back. We framed it. And now, it hangs on the front porch like a badge of honor. So tell me, who was really out of line here? Let me know in the comments. When does an HOA protect a neighborhood? And when does it become a weapon? Smash that like button if you've ever dealt with petty power junkies. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove justice eventually does show up.